Hey friends, welcome to Living the KG Life, a pixie dust-filled podcast. On today's episode, we are going to be doing a resort review of the All-Star Resorts. So stick around, it's going to be great. All right, friends, let's hop in and talk resort reviews. Now, there are so many resorts you can stay at on Disney property, off property, and kind of anywhere in the area. So we thought this would be a fun segment to just kind of share our thoughts on the different resorts so that, again, you can feel empowered and informed to make the right decision of where you should stay. Some of the episodes will be more of an interview style, talking to people about their experiences at the resorts, and sometimes it might be a little bit of both. As you've probably guessed, I do like to travel to Disney in kind of all different groups, I guess, or like do different vacation types. So we're going to try to share as much about the different resorts. So for Princess Weekend 2022, we stayed at 2 different All-Star resorts. We did 2 nights at All-Star Music, and then we did 5 nights at All-Star Movies. Now, why it came to be that we ended up doing a split between the All-Stars is, long story short, we ended up changing our initial reservation and Movies wasn't available. So we just tacked on 2 additional nights and we said, you know what, we'll do 2 at Music and then move over to Movies. So it really wasn't that bad. You know, to be honest, thinking back, I've always been a fan of the All-Star resorts. I don't know if it's because that was where I stayed so much growing up, from our first trips as a family to most of our cheerleading competitions, we stayed at the All-Star resorts. So I feel like I just have a lot of really great memories there. Now, a lot of people have differing opinions on value resorts, and that's the category that the All-Star resorts fall into, is the value resorts. And they're over in the Animal Kingdom area. So what you'll find with the different resorts is it'll give you a category and then it'll give you a resort area. So it'll tell you kind of what park it's closest to or where on property it kind of lands. So the All-Star resorts are in the Animal Kingdom area, which, depending on if you really enjoy Animal Kingdom, it's going to be a little bit closer to that. For me, Magic Kingdom is kind of like the point that I like to be the closest to, but I also really like to be close to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Now, there are a lot of different pros and cons of all of the different categories of resorts. So let's talk a little bit about each of those. So the price per night that we just had at the All-Star, so this was February 2022, was the range, depending on the night, was anywhere from like $150 to like $200 a night. We did have a couple nights that we were able to apply my annual pass holder discount, which was great. And then you'll notice throughout the week or the weekends even, there may be a range in the prices. But the value resorts across the board are usually the most affordable. So for me, and I feel like I've said this probably a lot on the podcast, but I tend to be the type that spends most of the time out of the room. So I am not super picky when it comes to the size and the amenities of the resort and things like that, because I want to be either at the parks, or I love to resort hop and try, restaurants and things at the other resorts as well. So if you're going to spend $150 to $200 a night, the value that you get, at the value resorts is actually really great. For room options, you have standard and preferred rooms. And then there's also another section of accessible and non-accessible. And you can check on the website and it gives you like all sorts of different options of the two. But one of the main differentiators for standard and preferred is where the buildings are located. So that's something to think about when you're booking. The other thing is, at the All-Star resorts, these are really like a typical hotel room. It's going to be fairly small. There's going to be either one queen-size bed with a pull-down bed, or you could also have an option that has one king-size bed. So the rooms aren't huge. I would say that's probably one of the things that I would put in the cons column, is that the rooms aren't big. So it really depends on who's going with you, how much room and space you feel comfortable with your group. But that's something to keep in mind. They are a fairly tight room with the new pull-down beds. And I say new because the All-Stars have actually recently gone under a remodel and a renovation. So they're really, really nice. They have these nice new hardwood floors. The beds are actually raised up a little bit higher off the floor, which is nice. You can actually put things under the bed and use that for storage. Again, with the rooms being a little bit smaller, that extra kind of storage type area is really nice. You do have a shower tub in the bathroom. And one of the keys with the standard versus preferred is the view and or the location of the room and the building. And I would say this is something to think about that probably could go into the con column as well, is that the resorts are really big. So if you're located in a building that's fairly far from that main building where you're going to get the food court, where you're going to get your buses, where you're going to check in, the front desk, all of that, it can be pretty far. So if that's something that either you or someone in your party really needs to be able to get to that transportation area or like that main hall, definitely keep that in mind or specifically request that when you book your room. Now, as I said, I have always been an all-star girl, so there are lots of pros of staying at an all-star resort or really any value resort as well. Like I said, the price point for on-property is fantastic. So to me, that's number one. I'm not going to spend a ton of time in the room, so I want to make sure that, I'm not spending a ton of money for something I'm really not going to use. The other thing is I really love themes. As you may have guessed, themes of all kinds I really, really enjoy. And I would say this part is such a personal preference for people. The value resorts are definitely heavier on the themes. Some people love it, some people don't. I personally, it almost makes me feel like I'm really in that Disney bubble. I've definitely personally started to expand a little bit more and stayed at some of the moderate and deluxe resorts, which are incredible and beautiful. But I also really just love to have, the Mickey Fantasia pool at All-Star Movies and things like that. So for kids, especially, if you really want them to feel like they are in that Disney bubble through theming specifically at your resort, then the All-Stars are actually fantastic. So at the Movies resort where we stayed, it was actually perfect timing because we have been running our Mouse Madness tournament throughout the month of March. So the theming actually at All-Star Movies was there was Mighty Ducks, there was Fantasia, there was 101 Dalmatians, there was Toy Story. So a lot of the movies that actually were playing and going on in Mouse Madness were also themes at the resort. I think the Toy Story area at All-Star Movies is hands down one of my favorite. They have a giant Woody, they have a giant Buzz, there's Rex and Bo Peep. They have a big door where you walk into Andy's room. It really is fantastic theming. The other place where you can see a lot of great theming at these resorts is the pools. A lot of kids and a lot of parents really love the pools at Disney, and I really think part of it is the theming of the pools. So for example, the big pool at All-Star Movies is the Fantasia pool. So you've got Sorcerer Mickey. He's got kind of like water shooting out everywhere. It is just such a cool vibe. Usually at the All-Stars, there's, I believe, 2 pools at each one. So you'll see at All-Star Movies, there's the big Fantasia pool, which is right outside that main hall. And the second pool is a little bit smaller. It was actually right near our room. We stayed in the Mighty Ducks area, which I love the Mighty Ducks. And that pool was kind of like Mighty Ducks sports themed. You had Goofy, who was dressed as a goalie and things like that. And that pool is a little bit smaller. And I would say most of the resorts that I have stayed at, and I think this really, depends on the time of day, depends on the time of year, the trip. The smaller pools tend to be a little bit more quiet, I have found. Again, that probably will, range based on your resort, but even just the fact that you have multiple options for pools is awesome. And again, you'll still have that really great theme no matter which pool you go to. Now, in terms of transportation at the resorts, some of the value resorts have a couple different options. At the All-Stars specifically, they just have the option for the bus. You can take an Uber or a Lyft. I have done that numerous times too, whether it's going to a different resort or to Disney Springs if I didn't feel like taking the bus. There are lots of options there. So you're not necessarily tied just to the bus, but that is the only Disney provided transportation option. Versus Pop Century or Art of Animation, they do have the Skyliner available as well. And then for some of the deluxe resorts, you'll also have the Skyliner, or you might even have the monorail. Something to keep in mind there transportation-wise as well. A lot of these resorts do have some fun amenities at the resort. So when we were there a couple nights, we saw that they play the movies for everyone to watch. Some of them have little campfires. And then a lot of times at the pools at these resorts, they have really great fun activities for everyone to participate. Sometimes it'll be trivia. Sometimes it'll be fun games. I know when we stayed at the boardwalk, they were doing some fun activity where it was like filling up the water in the bucket and passing to the next person. So they do try to keep everybody engaged at the pools as well. And then they have some other things. They're usually near or by the pool where they do different recreation activities. Sometimes it might be a tie-dye activity or something like that. So you'll want to keep an eye out on the calendar at your resort as well and see what options are available there. And then options for food is definitely the most limited at the All-Stars or some of these value resorts because you have this sort of food court type of vibe in that main hall or that main building when you get there. Again, I personally don't mind it whatsoever. It feels very easy to go either do a mobile order and pick it up, or as you know, you're getting off the bus, coming back, you can stop in and grab a drink, grab a snack. And then also in that shop, in that main hall area, they do have, some really easy grab and go snacks and drinks and things like that as well. Grab it and then keep walking and bring it to the room. That's personally something I really love, and I found it to be very easy from breakfast all the way to lunch, all the way to dinner, or even honestly a late night snack. The amount of times that after, a long day at the park or drinking around the world at Epcot, we have come back, mobile ordered some chicken fingers and eaten them in bed, and it was perfect. The other option that you have at a lot of these resorts, especially the All-Star, is they usually have a pool bar. So one of the nights, Meg and I just kind of bellied up and hung out at the bar, had a couple drinks. We also mobile ordered and grabbed, I think we had pizza that night, and went in and grabbed the slices, ate our slices at the bar, had a couple drinks, and then walked back to the room. So usually they're open, I want to say till like 11. So definitely check those out as well. Those are also usually themed to the resort. So for example, at Art of Animation, it's the drop-off because they have a Finding Nemo section. At All-Star Movies, it's called the Silver Screen Spirits Pool Bar. So you'll notice that they all have a different name or kind of like theme that goes along with it, but the pool bar is always where it's at. So make sure you check those out as well. Now, the biggest question of all is, would I stay there again, or would I recommend that someone else stays there? Like I said, I love the All-Stars. I love the value resorts. One of the most important things to remember when you're booking your resort is to really think about and prioritize what is the most important to you for this trip, for your family, for your group. You don't have to stay at one of the most expensive resorts on property to make sure that you have a magical vacation. You will have a fantastic time at the All-Stars. I can tell you that because I've done it. I would say probably 50% of the trips that I've done in my lifetime, I've stayed at an All-Star resort or one of the other value resorts. And again, I think going in with the right expectation of when you're at an All-Star, you're not going to have, a beautiful sit-down dinner area. So if that's important to you to have at your resort, then maybe an All-Star is not for you. But you also don't have to only eat at your resort. You can have dining experiences at any resort on property, as well as at anywhere in the park. So that's something, again, that I tend to do. I would much rather have a less expensive room and head over to California Grill at the Contemporary and eat a really nice steak dinner there. And just, again, really think about what is the most important aspect of your vacation, and is it something that has to be at your resort, or is it something that you can still do while you're there? It doesn't necessarily have to be where you're staying. So for some quick tops, bests, favorites, if you will, I would say best amenities at the All-Star Resorts is, for me, the theming. I really do love the amount of IP that you see at these resorts. Is it always what I'm going to want for vacation? No, but overall, I think they do a fantastic job at theming, like head to toe, top to bottom, side to side. Everything is themed and looks incredible. It's always on point. Best meal at these resorts, I would say, is really going to be like the simple stuff. You know what I mean? Like a slice of pizza, chicken fingers and fries. They have great Mickey waffles, right? So like the really easy, simple stuff is what you're going to get at these resorts, and they're usually really great. I would say the best or like the most helpful part of staying at the resort, obviously the price point is great, but again, the ease of the trip is fantastic. Can't beat it. And then for the resorts that do have heavy theming, one of the things that I want to make sure we highlight is what is the best or our favorite themed area of the resort. And I would say at All-Star Movies especially, The Toy Story area is probably one of my favorites. Toy Story is always going to be one of my favorite movies. And again, the theming and the detail that they put into these areas is just, it's Disney level. It's incredible. So I would say that is definitely one of my favorites. I also really love the Mighty Ducks area. I've stayed in the Mighty Ducks area a couple times, but really nothing's going to beat the Toy Story area for me. So if you have any questions about value resorts, about the all-star resorts, feel free to send me a DM, send me an email. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have on my experience or my recommendations even in the area. The other thing to really consider as well is if you're working with a Disney travel planner, they have so much information about the resorts, what's available, what's not. So if you're working with a Disney vacation planner, make sure you ask them all of those questions. And the last thing that I would say is really take other people's opinions as just that. A lot of people have different opinions when it comes to the value resorts. Like I said, I have always had a great experience. I've always had really magical stays, and I've stayed there quite a bit. And there are some people that just, don't like the idea of a value resort, and that's okay. That's totally their opinion. So I would say really do your research and really think about what's the most important to you and prioritize that over somebody else's opinion about a resort. That's actually what I think is going to be really fun and really nice about this resort review segment of the podcast is that we'll be bringing on other people to talk about their experiences at all these different resorts. So again, you can feel confident in the decision that you make that's best for you and your family or your group when you head to the resorts. If you have any questions, my DMs are always open, so you can feel free to send over any questions. I love talking about the different resorts around Disney properties, so you can always send them over my way. If there are any specific resorts that you would like us to check out and do a high-level overview or review on, let us know. We will definitely be doing more episodes like this in the future. So make sure you are following us on Instagram at Living the KG Life and that you've subscribed to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. We have new episodes every Monday, and sometimes we sprinkle in some bonus episodes on Fridays as well. So stick around. It's going to be great.